appeal tonight for the establishment of a sexual offenders registry. Young people urged to become fearless leaders. And reflections on the passing of a long-serving Catholic priest.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Roll-Farquharson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping the news tonight, police have confirmed that they are investigating the reported sexual assault of an 8-year-old girl. ZNS News has learned that the matter involves a 70-year-old man who reportedly sexually assaulted the child, who is said to be a dependent. The elderly suspect is currently in custody and is expected to be arraigned before the court tomorrow. Meantime, the subject of a sexual offenders registry has been thrust into the national spotlight once again. Tonight, residents on Grand Bahama are up in arms and are asking, how long will it take before a sexual offenders registry becomes a reality?
I'm calling on our government to now revisit the laws as to these crimes that are done against children.
The plan for a sex offender registry was introduced in 2013 with an amendment to the Sexual Offences Act after the murder of 11-year-old Marco Archer by a child predator in New Providence. Minister of National Security Marvin Dames pledged that the government would have established a sex offender registry before the end of 2018. That did not happen. According to reports, the minister noted that the sexual offenders registry would then be on schedule for the first quarter of 2019. These residents say now is the time.
If this was something top of their agenda, no matter which government came into power, this should have been done years ago. Years ago. This breaks my heart in so many pieces.
In America, sexual offenders are monitored that way, and in the Bahamas there's no way of monitoring them, because if they do something on an island, they move to another island. There's no registry, and most of them do the same thing over and over and over again.
It'll signify to the women, guess what, I don't need to walk this road, because the minute you attach yourself to this man by marriage or relationship, there becomes soulish ties, and it's hard for you to pull away. Sometimes it's hard for you to believe that the person who says they love you would do something to that effect.
As a matter of fact, I don't even think they should be out of jail to be on a sexual offenders list. I think they should have life in jail.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a child.
Many say the penalties are not stiff enough, and some have even gone far enough to say that as a result of this, some persons may be tempted to take the law into their own hands.
Because the length of time that you would sit in jail for violating my child, a shift delivered for life, it's unacceptable.
As women and as parents, we are not pushing, we're not holding the government's feet to the fire strong enough. And that is what we need to do. We have to put aside politics, put aside who's your party color, who's at the head, and do what is right for our children.
As a matter of fact, we as the citizen need to lobby to make sure that, it's one thing to say we need it, but it's a different thing when you take a stand, and I am willing to take a stand.
These residents are also encouraging parents to always have an open line of communication with their kids.
Just discern who you have around your children. Don't be afraid to hear what they have to say, and check them. Even with the people who you live with, check them.
You must be very, very, very careful of who goes around your kids. And even for myself, I feel like if you have daughters and they're young and stuff and they're with their mother, I feel like certain things their mother should do more than their father.
Women, you have to pay particular attention to your children, your girls and your boys today, and don't take anything for granted, because when the deed is done, it is done.
In an interview with reporters earlier at the launch of the legal year on Grand Bahama, the Attorney General, the Honorable Carl Bethel, expressed a disappointment surrounding the delay in the establishment of the Sexual Offences Court. He said funding was an issue and they are now seeking to have the court up and running by midterm. He said a court will help to eliminate the backlog of cases, some of which have been languishing for more than 5 years. Meantime, the Department of Immigration taking 3 persons to court for breach of the country's country's immigration laws. Jamaican national Claudia Ricketts, 49, was charged with overstaying. Ricketts pled guilty to the charge and ordered to pay $1,800 or a default, serve 18 months behind bars. Now, 2 Haitian nationals were also taken before the court. Alvania Albaris, age 36, was charged with illegal landing. She pled guilty and was fined $300 or in default, spent 2 months at the Bahamas Department of Correction. In a related matter, 53-year-old Jerome Esperance, a Haitian national with a resident spouse permit, was charged with harboring Ivania at his dwelling place at Redwood Lane. He pled guilty and was ordered to pay $2,000 or in default, serve 2 months behind bars. They were all able to pay their fines and were turned over to immigration to expedite their departure from the country. In other news, the Catholic community and the country at large mourning the loss of another well-known priest, the second in as many months. Monsignor Preston Moss, the former Vicar General of the Archdiocese, passed away in the capital yesterday. Moss is remembered as a man of enormous compassion and a priest deeply rooted in sacred scriptures. Tonight, the rector of Mary Star of the Sea Catholic Church is singing his praises. Megan Shepard reports.
Members of the Roman Catholic community and the country mourning the loss of another well-known Catholic priest, Monsignor Preston Moss. He became a Catholic as a teenager and served in the priesthood for over 5 decades. Rector of Mary Star of the Sea Catholic Church, Father David Cooper, noting that Monsignor Moss served in many capacities in the diocese.
Most importantly, Vicar General for a substantial amount of time, which was sort of a deputy to the bishop. And so he was known to be a very confidential person, a great pastor. In fact, he is credited with introducing what we call the folk mass. As a young priest at St. Joseph's, he introduced the drums into the mass, and so he kind of pioneered, quote-unquote, livening up the liturgy to attract the young people of the church. But on a personal note, he has been vocation director for many years as well. And so even as a youngster in high school, he would call you out of time to time and say, you ever thought about being a priest? You know, we didn't think about those things, but he put it in our consciousness.
Monsignor Moss was battling stomach cancer. And while Father Cooper notes that the past 2 years were challenging for him, Moss remains upbeat.
He fought hard and long, but it was just too grave, and so he succumbed to it. But for those who visited him last, he was still himself, still a bright smile, still very peaceful. But he would be missed. He'd be dearly missed. He has nurtured most of the Bahamian priests' vocation in some capacity, because he would have been vocations director during their discernment process. And so this death is more personal to the local clergy, because in recent time he would be the first Bahamian priest to have died in active ministry.
Father Cooper adding that many around the country have already began reaching out and expressing condolences.
We saw lots of statements from all quarters of society yesterday acknowledging his giftedness and his contribution and whatnot. And so for all of that, we just have to be grateful. He served 54 years in active ministry, and that will always be his legacy.
Monsignor Preston Moss died at his residence at the age of 79. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Last month, Father Remy David, rector of St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church in Hunters, passed away at the age of 82 after suffering a heart attack. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Stay with us. There's more news right after the break.